let's talk about antibiotics first, because that's what we were talking about with the Chick-fil-A thing. You said for animals, we're talking about like when they get sick, but that's not the whole story, right?
Yes.
It's not always just when they get sick.
Exactly. So non-organic animals may be given antibiotics, not just to treat a disease, but prophylactically or for prevention of disease. So essentially it's in their food. They're consuming antibiotics all the time.
I would not want to do that.
Yes. So one distinction though, again, both sides here.
Yeah.
It is illegal to sell meat if it contains antibiotics.
Okay.
So you say, well, how does so what that essentially means is that when the animal is treated, okay, or if it's prophylactic use a certain amount of time, there's a withdrawal time frame. So the antibiotics must be out of the animal system. That's very easy to calculate, half-life, et cetera. And so there is a time period where there's a washout. So even in prophylactically treated animals with antibiotics, they are out of their system.
Okay. So yeah. So even the most the most antibiotically filled animals don't have them in their system when they are butchered and sold.
Yes. So organic animals haven't had them in their life, essentially. Conventional can have them up until a
whatever point.
Yes.
Okay.
A clinically determined withdrawal period.
Okay. All right. So I guess that means then that even for like the Chick-fil-A folks, I'm not going to be eating antibiotics even if this animal was treated.
Correct. So the USDA does random inspections of meat that's being prepared right at that time. There are less than 0.5% violations.
0.5. Okay.
Yeah. So you can't say there's 0% chance,
right.
But in general, it is well monitored and well adhered to seemingly, as far as we know.
All right. So I'm not getting dosed by unnecessary antibiotics every time I eat.
Yeah, but that's a critical distinction. No matter what, you are not getting dosed with the antibiotic.
Okay, so if that's the case, why is this an issue?
So it's an issue, and I'll try to say this as well as I can, see if I can get to the point, but it's more of a macro concern than a micro concern. And what I mean by that is it's more about what is occurring with us as a population, with the meat that we're consuming versus, okay, so for myself, I'm eating this piece of meat, and because I chose conventional, I may develop antibiotic resistance. That's ultimately what we're getting to here. I maybe should have started with that.
Okay.
The issue of concern that I can find in the sense of that there's some data behind is antibiotic resistance. Okay. So an animal consumes these antibiotics, consistently, prophylactically, whatever it is. It's not so much about one-time use, whether that's in humans or animals.
Right.
But so what can happen is those bugs, those bacteria are living creatures. They are trying to survive. They are evolving to be able to survive these. It's a survival of the fittest. The ones that aren't killed by the antibiotic have some basically evolution that allows them, losing the exact term, but allows them to continue to function, to continue to multiply. There you go. Yes, there's a couple I could use, but they all escaped me. So yeah, that's the point is that these animals can contribute to, I don't want to use the word superbugs, but to antibiotic resistant bacteria. And bacteria that maybe used to be susceptible to a certain antibiotic is now not any longer. And it puts a burden on the healthcare system from that standpoint. So these bugs are, whether you eat that from that farm or from that company or from that animal,
right,
it's a macro concern that bug can be out in your area, so to say. Okay. But it's not so much like, well, again, I consumed this today, and so XYZ. So now I have antibiotic-related diarrhea because I ate the Chick-fil-A chicken, and now I was exposed to antibiotic. That's not the case.
That's not it at all. It's the bigger picture of someday these antibiotics may not work anymore, and the bugs have evolved to the point that we can't stop them.
Yes.
Got it. Is there something more beyond that I need to be aware of in terms of the antibiotics?
In terms of what you can really find, and again, we're relating it to the antibiotic use. I'm not then tying in what occurs in these animals whenever they're tethered and they can't eat properly and they're competing for food, all those things that I'd mentioned before. It's not tying all that in right now. I'm trying to stick to this issue. As far as that goes, that's all I could really find that I can put my name behind, so to say.
Yep.
All right.
Got it. Is there a difference between, I guess it makes sense, the industrial farming, the industrial livestock raising, why they would prophylactically use antibiotics. So is this why it's probably better to buy from small sources, local farmers and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I would say that has to be the case. No matter what the industry is, the more kind of stores, the more locations, the larger your footprint, the more hardline rules you kind of have to make sure everything functions.
Okay.
And in this case, pretty easy deduction that prophylactically treating more aggressively, if you're Tyson Foods or Purdue or these big companies, is more likely the case versus your smaller farm. And hey, we haven't had any issues. We haven't had too much going on. I'm thinking about going organic. Well, at the very least, I want to be able to say this section of my herd is not been antibiotic exposed, even if maybe I can't qualify as organic. Whatever it is, and this is just my thoughts, but I would agree with that kind of for those reasons.
Okay, so in terms of antibiotics, an organic meat is one that has no antibiotics used in it at all.
Correct.
Okay.